Welcome to Conversations with Christ podcast. I'm Sharon Christ, and I believe that through authentic conversations, unwavering faith, and the power of community, we can uncover our true potential and embrace a life filled with purpose, joy, and fulfillment. In this podcast, we highlight the pulse of faith. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Christ. If you're listening or watching today, July 4th, I just want to wish you a happy Independence Day. I am so grateful to this country for opening its door to my daughter and I 8 years ago when we moved here, so we could be safe, so we could have many opportunities to grow and have a successful life, and to also help others in need. Tomorrow is July 5th, and it's actually Venezuela's Independence Day. And I just continue to pray to God so He will allow us to have the freedom that we once had, to be free again. Just like He freed His people and took them out of Egypt, I just continue to pray so He take Venezuela out of this dictatorship so we could be free once again. And many people like me who are out of our home, our country, could be one day able to come back and see our families. So today we will have a conversation about something that is often overlooked but is incredibly important for our spiritual, physical, and emotional well-being, and it is the role of rest in Christian life, aka the Sabbath. In our fast-paced, always-on world, the concept of rest can sometimes feel a little bit foreign and also a little bit lazy. However, the Bible speaks clearly about the importance of the rest and how it reflects our trust in God. So let's just start by looking at the biblical foundation of rest. From the very beginning, rest has been part of God's plan and design for us. And we can see this in Genesis chapter 2, verse 2 and 3. It says, by the seventh day, God had finished the work He had been doing. So on the seventh day, He rested from all His work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it He rested from all the work of creating He had done. So God Himself rested after the creation. He was just setting an example for us. The Sabbath is a day of rest and worship, just reminding us to pause from our labors and just focus on Him. Then Jesus also invites us to rest in Him. The rest is just not physical, but also spiritual and emotionally as well. Because He calls us to lay our burdens down and trust in His provision. And you can see this in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 through 30. It says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Then in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 9 through 11, it says, there remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from their works, just as God did from His. Let us, therefore, make every effort to enter that rest, so that no one will perish by following their example of disobedience. And through faith and trust in God, we can find a deep and lasting rest for our souls, just reminding us of the eternal rest that it is to come. This Sabbath rest day serves as a precursor, a promise that concludes in the future, that perfect rest that we're going to experience later. So remember that this Sabbath rest is not earned, but it is a gift that God has given us and has offered us to everyone who seeks Him. So understanding the importance of rest is one thing, but how can we incorporate this into our lives? And here are some tips that I'll share with you. So the first one is observe a weekly Sabbath. Set aside one day each week to rest from work and just focus on worship, family time, and just rejuvenation. Just rest. This day should be free from all work or usual tasks, and you should just focus on activities that restores your soul. And just so you know, this day does not have to be a Sunday. And I used to think this before, and it used to drive me crazy thinking that I wasn't doing this correctly. But this should be just one day of the week that you have free, that you have off, so you can enjoy this rest. Not because you're not doing it on a Sunday means that you're doing it wrong. Just FYI. Then you can also start or end your day on a quiet time of prayer, reflection, and Bible reading, perhaps. This helps center your mind and spirit, just bringing your peace and focus. Then you can also limit your digital consumption. In our digital age, constant connectivity can be exhausting. It is. So schedule regular breaks from screens and also social media. Social media can be a poison, and allow your mind to rest and just recharge. Then we have very common physical rest. Physical rest is crucial for our overall health and well being. Ensure that you are getting adequate sleep at night, and just create that bedtime routine that will help you wind down and prepare for a restful night and for the next day as well. And last but not least, we have emotional and mental rest. Take time to process your emotions and thoughts. You can either do journaling, or you can talk to a trusted friend, or seeking counsel can also provide that mental and emotional rest that you need just to process everything and have a fresh start every day. But resting is not just about ceasing every single activity that you have. It's about trusting God. When we rest, we acknowledge that God is in control and that our worth is not based on our productivity, but about His plans for us. So resting means trusting that God will provide for our needs even when we're not working. And we see this in Philippians chapter 4, verse 19. It says, "And my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of His glory in Christ Jesus." It also deepens our relationships. Taking the time to rest and focus on our relationships with God, with family, with friends, strengthens these bonds, and it allows us to have meaningful connections and share experiences. Ironically, regular rest can make us more productive. When we are all well rested, we can work more efficiently and creatively. And it can also help us with our spiritual growth, because resting in God's presence allows us to grow spiritually, and we become more attuned to His voice and directions for our lives. So as we wrap up today's episode, I want to encourage you to embrace the gift of rest that God has given us. In a world that often values busyness and productivity above all else, let's remember that our true value comes from being loved by God and living according to His purpose. By incorporating rest into our lives, we honor God, we refresh our souls, and we also position ourselves to better serve Him and to serve others. So take to heart the words of Psalms 46, verse 10. He says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among nations, and I will be exalted in the earth." In our stillness, we recognize God's sovereignty and find peace in His presence. So thank you for joining me today on this episode of Conversations with Christ. I hope our discussion on the role of rest has inspired you to make rest a priority in your life. And whatever it is that you're going through at this moment, if you need prayer, go ahead and fill out the prayer request form that you can find in the description box of this episode. There is a link that you can click, and you can tell me how I can pray for you. Remember, you're not alone in this season of your life. And I will also love to invite you to subscribe to this podcast and to follow it so our community continues to grow together. And I can't wait to have another conversation with you next week.